All right, Mr. Sadler.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Just a few more questions, I think.
Yes. Mr. Sadler, thank you for coming back to us. Can I go back to the photograph we were looking at just before we broke for lunch, which is MET 000-15813, and the picture that you took. Now, in terms of the timing of that, can you see that the photograph on the right, which we've just begun to discuss, start with the time in at 9:44 at the top? And can you help us with that? Was that there, that grid, at the time you left?
No. So the grid on the left, as we look at it, with the squares or rectangles, I drew that. The yellow crosses across it, they weren't there. And I do believe I started crossing off the lower floors that weren't affected by the fire. The one on the right with the writing, I was back at my fire engine by 09:44. I do believe I left the bridgehead when I drew on that. No crews were being committed when I left the bridgehead. They were setting back up engine control.
Okay, so just so that we can be clear about the sequence of events, you go up to the 4th floor, first of all. When you get to the 4th floor, you're told you have to make a plan, so you draw the one on the left.
That's correct.
Yes. Well, then in your statement, and this is what I just wanted to pick up with you, in your second statement, you say in the 3rd paragraph, I carried on with entry control for about 2 hours, and I believe I was relieved at 11 a.m. First of all, is your recollection correct that you were relieved at 11 a.m., do you think? It's on the screen if you need to look at it.
Thank you.
This is your second.
Because obviously I totally forgot about this event.
Yeah.
And I asked the Met Police to come back and take this statement.
Sure.
Did I set up entry control?
Well, let me see if I can just help you a bit more. If you go to your second statement, you say in the 3rd paragraph, I carried on with entry control for about 2 hours, and I believe I was relieved at 11 a.m. Now that's, I'm sorry, we're not seeing the right one on the screen. It's the 3rd paragraph, not the 4th paragraph. There. I carried on with entry control for about 2 hours, and I believe I was relieved at 11 a.m. Now, was that, when you say I was relieved at 11 a.m., was that, and then you go on to say, around this time it was decided to regroup, pull all crews out and move the bridgehead back up to the 4th floor.
Sorry, this is a okay, so this is a kind of miscommunication in my statement again.
Right.
It's been hard revisiting this, and when the police come, after a while of speaking to them, you just want it over. That's slightly inaccurate in terms of the bridgehead was in the lobby. We relocated the bridgehead to the 4th floor. I drew the plan and I left the bridgehead as they started recommitting crews to the upper floors.
Right, so let's see if we can piece this together slightly better then, than by using the police statement. Can you go to your contemporaneous note and just look at page 3 of that? That's MET quadruple 05565. And just at the very end there, you say around 11 a.m. I was relieved from ECO at the bridgehead and left the incident. So when you were relieved from the ECO at the bridgehead and left the incident, where was the bridgehead at that stage?
I think my time frame's wrong there because I would have left the incident around that time. I can't remember setting up bridgehead and committing crews from the 4th floor. We just relocated and they put fresh entry control officers in there. Does that make sense, sir? So I was in the lobby, we were committing crews. Smoke alleviated from the 4th floor. We relocated the bridgehead to the 4th floor. Whilst relocating, carrying the boards up there, they put fresh engine control operators on the boards. They asked me to draw the plan. I drew the plan and I left the 4th floor.
I see. Okay. And when you left the 4th floor, was that the end of your involvement at Grenfell?
I left. I went to the command unit to see if, because a lot of reliefs had come on from the day watch there, and they were getting there by various means. There's no fire engines to bring them.
Right.
So when resources were in place, I received my board back from the commissioner at the CU, and we left the incident to Paddington Fire Station.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get a time frame. If I can get back to the plan at Met 000158813 as to when
around 8:45
you drew that.
Around 8:45 we closed. I remember looking at my watch. Around 8:45 we closed down the engine control in the lobby, in the lobby at the bottom of the mezzanine, and relocated to the 4th floor.
Right.
So whatever time it took to relocate and set this back up, get fresh wearers up there, 20, 30 minutes, and then that kind of started again.
Okay. Now, that's at 8:45. Were you still there when the information on the right-hand side of this picture, right next to the grid you drew, started to be filled out?
No, I don't remember that. Crew manager Ben McAlone, he was with me, so his memory might be a bit better, but unless I've just totally frozen that out of my memory, which I totally forgot about this in my original statement because of just everything that took part, and I got the police back. So,
right. So looking at the first time in recorded on the grid on the right-hand side of the picture, which is at, looks like 09:44, or perhaps the earliest one is earlier actually, it's 09:21. That may be that there are crews returning, it doesn't matter. Do you think you had left the 4th floor by that time?
I'm almost certain I did. You're making me question myself now, but I'm almost certain I remember crews being committed.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Those times, they looked like they were time in and not time out. So, and we'll obviously have to ask whoever it was who drew that. But that looks like that is time back to the bridgehead and not time from the bridgehead.
It served a purpose that you would write time in rather than time out, because time in is more important to know rather than when they've left. You just cross them off, which looks like what they've done, the same systems we had downstairs, crossing their names off on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Time out, it doesn't really serve a purpose. Time in is the most imperative thing, because we want to know how long they've been in there and what the duration of their cylinders are.
Right, okay. You mentioned firefighter McAllennan. Is he a crew manager?
He is at my station.
And he's at your station. And was he one of the firefighters who accompanied you on your pump?
He was in charge of the pump, Hotel 222.
222. Do you remember speaking to any of your watch members, either during or after the incident, about any rescues on floor 14?
Random mess table we might have, but again, it's quite an emotional and sensitive situation for them, and I haven't really gone into specifics of locations, but my watch at Lambeth carried out multiple rescues on the upper floors in the early stages of the fire.
Right. Can I ask you to be shown a section or part of a video clip taken by a police body-worn camera at the adjusted timestamp of 02:13 and 3 seconds?
Is this going to require any form of warning?
No. I hope not, no. Now, can you identify who's in that picture?
That's crew manager Batterby.
Yes.
There's a watch manager there, I can see by his markings.
Yes.
I don't know who that is, his helmet's there as well.
Right.
Sorry, it's hard for me to see that. Obviously you can see a police officer there. This location looks like we might be back at the... I'm not too sure actually, it's hard to see there, because I can't reference where we are, if that's a corner of Grenfell Tower or not.
Right. Were you wearing your helmet while doing the FSG on the car bonnet?
I'm pretty bad at wearing my helmet, to be fair, so it's hard to hear.
Right.
So unless I was forced to wear it, I wouldn't be wearing my helmet.
Right. Can I just show one more to you, which is at adjusted time 2:13:01. That's it. Now, if you look at the car and look at the bonnet, can you help with who it is that we see there?
That will be me.
Right.
I think my helmet's on the car bonnet there.
Right.
And that most probably will be Charlie.
Okay. And that adjusted is by an hour, which we have to for this body-worn footage, puts you on the car bonnet at 02:13, which is the time we saw, in fact, for the first of the white forms we looked at this morning.
That's correct, sir, yes.
And that would tally with your recollection, would it?
Yes, sir, and I think that 0213 FS control information form was numbered.
Right.
If that is numbered, that further support my number sequencing taking place on the car bonnet.
Right, and that's the car, is it? The bonnet of which you were working on?
So yes, and it's a little bit further underneath the
It is.
covered bit than I stated.
It is, okay.
And you can see Paddington's aerial on the left-hand side.
That is the turntable
That's
ladder.
a turntable ladder, which is now housed, and they disconnected that hose and put it back underneath the this part because it was catching fire from debris.
Right, and you'll see, just one more question, you'll see in the middle by the pillar, or in front of the pillar, an officer with a white helmet and what looks like a white tabard. Do you remember seeing an officer in a white helmet and a white tabard?
I mean, there's a lot of officers there with white helmets. One there wearing a BA set, which could have. That's not me, because when I was there, it was a lot more crowded than there was 20, 30 firefighters forming up. As you can see on the left-hand side, you can see them up on the mezzanine, waiting to be committed to carry out rescues.
Yes.
So I don't know who that is wearing that tabard. I will be at that car bonnet.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sadler, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for your patience. You've been extremely helpful, and I just want to say how grateful I am to you for coming to the inquiry today and assisting me with my questions. I have no further questions for you. There may be a question mark which arises from the original fire survival guidance documents which we have yet to receive, but if there are any further questions, we will take that up with other people.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like the inquest to hear that this fire was an unprecedented fire and something I've never witnessed before, and the actions I saw of the firefighters on that day was far surpassed anything I've ever seen, and the bravery and how courageous they were in working outside of operational procedures to save people's life makes me proud to be their colleague.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. And I'd echo what Mr. Millett says. We're very grateful to you for coming to give your evidence. Dealing with FSG calls is obviously a very important aspect of all this, and one which we haven't entirely found easy to get on top of. So we're particularly grateful to you for coming to explain it. Thank you,
sir.
much.
Before you go, Mr. Sadler, can I just correct one thing? When I talk about the originals of the FSG forms we were looking at before, it may be necessary to come back and ask you some further questions about them if they are absolutely necessary. I just want to make sure that everybody in the room understands that, but I hope it won't be necessary.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you
I
very
take
much.
it you wouldn't mind doing that if we really needed your help, would you?
Anything I can do to help, I wouldn't really like to, wouldn't volunteer myself for this, but if I have to, then needs must.
Right.
Yes,
Well, thank
you.
you very much, and you go with the usher if you'll
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Millett, the next witness is...
The next witness is
Who-
Watch Manager De Silvo from
Yeah.
Chelsea. It
Um,
may be sensible to have a
do you
5-minute
know
break.
if we need any reorganisation of the furniture?
We may.
I think we may. So shall I rise for 5 minutes to get
If
that
you would,
organised?
Mr. Chairman, that would be very helpful.
Thank you very much.